What's up, everybody? It's Alex, the Boogeyman here from Title Boxing Club in Rochester, New York. It is time for our focus point of the week. And this week, we're going to talk to one of our members, Ashley. Ashley, what should we be focusing on this week for our focus point of the week?
When I'm in my stance, should I be bending forward or standing straight?
To stand straight up or to bend? That is the question. And it is a good question, an interesting question. I'm going to talk about, but we got to teleport back there. All right, guys, so we're in our fighting stance. We've got our lead foot forward, we've got our rear foot back, we've got our hands up, we've got our shoulders relaxed, we've got a little bend in the knees, but that's not quite all. What do we do with our hips? Do we tilt them down, pitch them back a little bit, or do we come more straight up? Now, you probably remember the old-timey fighters, they used to fight like this with their chest back, nice and open like that. I don't really recommend doing that. Also old-timey fighters, but not as old, people like Jake LaMotta and Carmen Basilio, they'd have their heads way down while they're boxing, barely looking up, tipped, hunched forward. I wouldn't recommend that either. What I would recommend, though, is something a little bit in the middle. You don't want to be straight up and down. I see this a lot, especially when we're doing like hook burnouts, and people are very tall like this, and they're just completely straight. Their hips are completely flat. If your hips were a bowl of water, they would not spill anything up like this. But I don't want that. I want to spill a little bit of that water. I know that sounds super weird, so I'll tell you what, I'm going to teleport again and show you what I mean about the hips. All right, so this bowl filled with water is your hips. I know it's weird. Bear with me a little bit here. When you're in your fighting stance, these are your hips straight up. But what I want you to do in your fighting stance is tip them forward just a little bit so that if there was water in your hips, it would spill out like that. Okay, so I'm back now. That's what I want you to do. Just that little bit of a bend forward. Kind of like we talked about last week about tucking the chin. I want the whole body tucked. I don't want you wide open and tall. I want you tucked down, hunched down a little bit, not just bending at the knees, but the hips are tipped forward. Not so much that you're bending over to like to pick something up, but you've got your head up, your chin tucked, you're in a nice athletic balanced position. Because the problem is, if you're up high like this, you don't have a lot of balance because you're too tall, too high, and you're also wide open to be hit. So what we want, and you're not gonna get as much power either. When you're nice and low and crouched, you're gonna get maximum power. You're gonna be able to turn your hips, shift your weight all the way across the body, get that power without throwing yourself off balance or leaving yourself wide open. So that is my recommendation. Everybody's a little bit different, but I wanna see people spilling a little bit of that hip water, that a strange example that I used earlier, but it is a good one to think about. I want you thinking about it this week, making sure you're staying in what I call that athletic position so that you can respond to anything, you can do anything easily without it taking minimal time and getting maximum power. That's our focus point of the week. Tipping those hips forward a little bit, spilling just a little bit of that water, and of course, focusing on that technique, because as you, I, and Reginald VelJohnson well know, technique is everything.